Hello everyone, this is Rosea, and welcome to my first video on BitChute, on Rumble, and on other platforms. I'm here today to expose something that happened to me in 2008 that carried on from that time to 2020. It was done by people in the psychiatric system, specifically in the behavioral therapy and cognitive therapy type divisions, I guess you'd call them, fields. Essentially what it boils down to is I was misdiagnosed with two conditions that doctors have historically... No, excuse me, I should call them psychologists and therapists and professionals. Point is, they've historically misunderstood and mistreated them as a result of that misunderstanding. The conditions in question were oppositional defiant disorder and dissociative identity disorder. The first one was from 2008 to 2013? Yeah, 2013. And the second one was from 2015 to 2020. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying that these diagnoses are inherently harmful for every single person, and by that I mean they're not going to cause the same amount of damage as they are treated in every single person. I think oppositional defiant disorder is largely a social construct that comes from the way adults think they can treat kids, and children's responses to that, which then get labeled as disorders. And I think dissociative identity disorder has a legitimate bearing, a legitimate grounds in people's experiences, but I think it's too narrow of a lens to understand people's ways of experiencing themselves, and that's a whole nother topic. But I do think it's got validity as a diagnosis. My video today mostly is concerning ODD, specifically how I was diagnosed mistakenly with it and treated for it for a number of years in such a way that I lost my childhood, my ability to connect with and fully express my feelings, and kind of the sense of, yes, you're okay, you're not doing anything wrong, that I think all kids should have growing up. I'm also going to include some clips of some of the work I've been doing to restore the capabilities that were taken from me by the behavior program that I was put into to treat this misdiagnosed disorder. And so you're going to get to hear some of that. I'm not going to do any video on this channel because I am visually impaired, and there's no point in me messing with a camera when I can't see what's going on the screen. So there's that. I am recovering from a cold, so my voice may be a little bit shaky. I'll do my best to edit out my pauses and shakes for breath, but I really wanted to get this video out there because I, quite frankly, don't have the patience to see the psychiatric system get away with abusing kids, even if just verbally and emotionally, and taking away their childhoods. So without further ado, let's begin. I was diagnosed with ODD on the basis of several symptoms that I had. I got a copy of my assessment, and I'm not going to read it word for word, but I've read it often enough that I think I have the basics memorized, because it was so horrifying that I couldn't take my eyes off of it. And what the symptoms were that they used to diagnose me were tantrums and me apparently being defiant and refusing to comply with adults' requests or rules, and me getting angry and easily annoyed and blaming other people for my mistakes or misbehavior. I think they also listed deliberately annoying others. And they said, well, because it's lasted at least 6 months, we're going to diagnose her with ODD. As a result of that diagnosis, I was put into what I call the behavior program. They call it behavior modification therapy. And basically what that involved for me was a lot of incentive use. Meaning, when I had a good day or whatever, I would get to pick from this toy drawer. And it would be little things like snakes. And it would be little things like snakes or other toys that I liked. I would frequently gravitate toward the snakes. And they were these little glow-in-the-dark things. And then later it changed to, hey, if you do your work, and if you had good behavior during each of your classes, each of your subject matter areas that you were dealing with in school, you'd get 1 token for completing your work. You'd get another token for good behavior. And I could save up those tokens, and at the end of the week, I could go and buy toys from this little makeshift store thing they had. So that was their solution for addressing every single one of the symptoms that they had identified, and more, because they overreached and started treating things that were not listed in the initial assessment because they thought they were problems. My tone, my tendency to skip down the hallway when I was excited, things like that they didn't think were very conducive to keeping order in the school. So, I wanted to address something in particular, and that's the tantrums, right? We all know what a tantrum is, hopefully, where a kid will flop to the floor and kick and scream and thrash and cry and whatever else. And the consensus among experts, as if they know anything about what it is to be a kid, is that, well, the kids are doing it because they want something. Well, 2022, now we have research springing up that says, wait, they're intensely feeling, we need to let them. I love hand-in-hand parenting philosophies that advise this, that say, let them have their feelings. Let them express them to you in however big of ways, and don't try and teach them emotional regulation, because they'll figure it out on their own. They don't need all this. They don't need us to logic them out of it. And unfortunately, because I was diagnosed with ODD, that's basically what they tried to do. Have some calming techniques, have some logic, let's talk about it, but you don't get to express this physically. And what that did for me was it trapped it in my body. It trapped it in my body. I couldn't let it out through physical movement, and it's caused a lot of issues, and I'm not even sure what all those issues are, but that was the biggest thing, and I knew that if I let myself get separated from my feelings, it was going to be bad. So I fought them. I started to fight them from the minute they did it. It just felt wrong to me to not let my body physically express what I was going through. And I think that's part of the reason I was in there for so long. I was in from 2008 to 2013, sorry, I misspoke. And I think that's part of the reason why, because I would not give it up. I would not give it up. It would mean emotional death to me if I gave it up before it was ready to put itself to rest. And it has. Even when I thought I had just grown out of it, it has put itself to rest prematurely. And I think the behavior program was largely responsible for that. Now, I've been in a process called deep feeling therapy, and it's essentially a very organic process where you take a feeling, you take a thought, and you let your body kind of react to it in whatever way it's going to. And you do things to intensify those reactions. What I'm about to show you is audio of a session that I did myself yesterday. I've been in this therapy for about 10 months, and I've gotten more help out of it than I ever have out of cognitive styles, because it's encouraging a reversal of the process and the conditioning that the behavior program tried to teach me. Because remember, the behavior program's goal was to stop the tantrums, right? To get me to use my words. Well, this one doesn't encourage me to use my words. This one encourages, make sound. And so that's what you get to hear me doing on this session. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip it up into bite-sized pieces. And I'm going to provide context for each little piece that I'm going to show you. It is very loud, but the sound is muffled by a pillow, so if you hear muffled screaming, that's why. That's me. But this is, what you're about to hear is a prime example of what they tried to rob from me. And I say rob because without it, when I didn't have it, or when I would stop myself from doing it by a calming technique or whatever, the emotional distress that I was dealing with, it did not go anywhere. It just stayed stuck in the body and stuck in the body and stuck in the body, and showed up as all kinds of other symptoms, absolutely in line with what Arthur Janov, who promoted primal therapy until he died, I think in 2017? Yeah, I think it was 2017. Absolutely in line with everything he describes about neurosis, about feelings, about repression. All that was happening to me. And I knew about repression since 2012. But I knew that what they were doing to me was bad, and I was saying stuff about it since 2010, but I knew about primal therapy and repression since 2012, and I knew that I could not let them win. I knew I couldn't let them win. And this is me taking back what was stolen from me by their objectives and their demands and their token systems and everything else. This is me doing a little bit of the work. So without further ado, here we go. The first thing you're about to hear is me describing my present day feeling. In this case, it's a feeling of absolute rage, but it doesn't start out that way. It starts out as a question and a thought. The key lies in letting my body react to the thought, and that's something in the past few months that I've gotten very good at. My feeling earlier was had to do with kids, specifically me, and it was just why did they diagnose me with that thing? And Why did they... Why would you diagnose a kid with something for being themselves and for knowing who they are and for fucking, like, this is me, this is who I am, this is, and you're gonna label that as a problem and try and take it away from me? This is mine. At this point, I've gone from expressing aloud the feelings I'm having to talking directly to the people who I felt caused them. Take note that no one's actually in the room with me while I'm doing this session. It's just the people in my mind. I'm talking to them as if they are there, in the name of discovering and releasing this suppressed emotion. And in this context, thought and emotion make up the feeling, hence the need for the talking. I'm telling them now what I didn't get to tell them then. And the more I do this, the more physical it becomes. At one point, as I'm talking, it erupts into a yell, which is muffled by the pillow, but it's still a yell and it still comes out. This is mine. I have a right to thrash and scream and express my feelings in the ways that I need to, and I shouldn't have to fucking compromise that for school that frankly doesn't give a fuck about me. This is mine. This is who I am. So what the fuck are these people saying? You can't do this, you can't do that. This is mine. At this point, I start to get physical, thrashing on the bed. I should advise you guys that it does thump, and my bed frame squeaks, so it may get a little bit loud, and I may be a little bit hard to understand. I keep the pillow over my face, because I'm loud too. This is mine. 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 If you think that I've just given up words and started defying the ever-present directive in the behavior program to express my feelings verbally, you would not be mistaken. The last noise you heard, the one where I'm pounding the bed and growling into the pillow, was exactly that. That is one of the manifestations of the expression of feelings that the behavior program tried to extinguish from me. And I repeat it several more times to get the release I need. No amount of deep breathing could replace it, and it never has. It probably never will either. I don't know if you've heard this at the end of that particular clip, but you can hear, at least I can hear, where I have to take the pillow off my face and come up for air. This wouldn't be a problem if we as a society didn't have an issue with people working their feelings, but I live in an apartment with a neighbor I'd really like to not disturb. And that's the kind of compromise, quote, I have to make. Not because they asked for it, either. I just don't want to get in any more trouble than I have been for reclaiming this part of myself. Just something to take note of. And then I come back in with the words that dropped me into this rage in the first place. Yes, the screams you were hearing, the grunts and the growls and the you were hearing, and the thrashing was absolute rage. And this is me kind of bringing it back into the theme, which was the same in the present as it was in the past, which is the whole point of this therapy. In order to relieve distress in the present, you have to go back into the feeling and let it take you to the past. In this case, that's what it did. I didn't go back to a specific event, but this feeling was very pervasive from 2008 to 2013, and so that's where I was in the emotional sense. That's the space I was in, and that's what you were hearing. This is where I connect it back up to the word or verbal part of the feeling, which was, this is mine. That's where the rage was coming from. This belongs to me.
This belongs to me. You don't get to take it away. And you certainly don't get to call it an ODD diagnosis either. This was supposed to be mine. This was supposed to be something I held on to for years and years and years. And what did you do with it? You took it away. You fucking made it out to be a problem. In real terms, when these sons of bitches, you couldn't respect my timing. You fucking ignorant shit. Can't be fucked to understand child. Can't be fucked to understand why it is you do what you do. Can't be fucked to understand how. you're too goddamn lazy to give a fuck. Never mind me. Never mind what I need. Never mind what I want. It's all about you and your goddamn agenda. It's all about you. Your fucking useless tests and your fucking useless metrics and your goddamn fucking godforsaken fucking stupid cock fucking fuck. Sit off. And die in a fire. Your useless fucking tests. It's all about you. Never mind us. Never mind me. Never mind that goddamn meeting. Never mind my release. Oh, fuck me, right? Fuck you! Fuck you!
I screamed last night, so fuck you. I threw a tantrum just now, so fuck you. I screamed and yelled and made noises, so fuck you. I got my release, and I'm still getting it, so fuck you. In actuality, the release part of the session was over. I laid there for several more minutes, and my sense was that while I was still experientially holding the hand of the behavior program people, their indifference to my need for release, which I'd experienced pain about in previous sessions like this one, and rage, as demonstrated by this particular piece of work in question, it didn't bother me anymore after I was done. And I realized that I'm doing this work for me, to reclaim what I lost. I'm not doing it to get vengeance on them anymore. That was my motivation for coming into it in the first place, but vengeance used to be a lot stronger of a motivation, and now it's not so much anymore. This kind of insight would only have been possible for me through these kind of intense processes. Years of cognitive behavioral therapy haven't been able to affect the same kinds of changes that I've seen in months of deep feeling work. The evidence base says that this kind of work is harmful and causes people really bad side effects, but I think that's a ploy by the same industry I'm trying to heal from to suppress the truth and keep people dependent on them for the rest of their lives. I think a lot more people should be questioning the mental health diagnoses they get, especially where children are involved. Because, as you can see, the effects of mistreatment, even if no medications were involved in it, have the potential to last a lifetime. I got lucky and I found someone who could facilitate my process. My hope is that eventually I can become a coach as well and help other people regain parts of themselves they lost through childhood conditioning, whether it was sponsored by government programs, state-run programs, or just plain old parental ignorance, because that's a thing too. Behavior therapy causes so much suppression that it's a silent epidemic, But of course, because it causes no visible side effects that people are willing to connect to it directly, people keep silent about it. The media keeps silent about it, and it's frankly extremely disturbing. I hope this has inspired you to take action because, quite frankly, the psychiatric industry needs people to push back against it. It needs to be overthrown, it needs to be taken down, it needs to be done as soon as we possibly can. This is not safe. What we're doing to kids is not safe. There are side effects from behavior programs and behavior modification therapies. People just don't want to talk about them. And people don't want to call them out for what they are. Well, here I am calling them out for what they are. And doing the work to reverse them so that I can see the full extent of the damage that they've caused to me and probably to a million other people. I wasn't even subjected to the full range of behavior modification techniques out there. They put mine under positive behavioral support. Does what you just saw look very positive to you? Because that was its result. The need for me to undergo sessions like that is a direct result of what they did. Think on that. And until next time, I'll see you back.